A police officer gunned down while on duty.
Make no mistake that Baldwin officer was ambushed.
The suspect on the run, then captured.
The outpouring from the Baldwin community has been enormous.
The support unwavering.
Oh, it's a sniper from up here somewhere.
Plus the aftermath of the ambush in Dallas. New information on the sniper who attacked police.
This was a well-planned, well-thought-out, evil tragedy.
Killing 5 officers, wounding 7 others. We're getting some answers tonight, but so many questions still remain. Good evening from Baldwin, a place that's been called one of the safest cities in America, but tonight that sense of safety and security has been shattered after a police officer making a routine traffic stop was shot. Here's what we know tonight. The officer is in critical but stable condition. The suspect, who was on the run after the shooting, is in custody, and police are still searching for a motive. We have a team of reporters covering today's events. Let's begin with News Channel 5's Jacob Long, who is also here in Baldwin. He has been on this story since it broke.
Well, Mike, that suspect that you mentioned, 31-year-old Antonio Taylor, is still in custody tonight at the county jail. He's being held on $500,000 bond, now charged with multiple felonies, all for a crime that police say was an ambush against one of their own.
Today my heart aches for the men and women of the Baldwin Police Department.
Baldwin police say the shooting happened around 11 Friday morning in the 300 block of New Baldwin Road. An officer who's been on the force for 2 years pulled Taylor over in a Ford Taurus for speeding. But as that officer returned to his squad car to process paperwork, police say Taylor opened fire with a semi-automatic handgun.
The driver came out of the vehicle, advanced quickly on the officer from the back, and fired 3 shots.
Make no mistake, we believed during this investigation that Baldwin officer was ambushed.
Authorities say Taylor fled before he was eventually captured a few miles away after a brief foot chase with police. Back at the scene, 911 calls poured in from neighbors and witnesses as the injured officer lie helpless from taking a bullet to the neck.
You think to yourself, how does this stuff happen in our country? And then it happens in your own neighborhood.
Now Taylor faces 3 felony charges in a case that prosecutors say reflects the danger that comes with enforcing the law.
It just sort of illustrates that the potential is there anytime, and the officers are well aware of that, and I think even more so considering what's going on in the last couple days.
Taylor was on parole at the time of the shooting this morning and was not supposed to be in possession of a firearm. He does have a pretty lengthy criminal history, including other weapons offenses that span several states. Still no word tonight from investigators about his possible motive. Live in Baldwin, Jacob Long, News Channel 5, on your side.
Just steps from the Baldwin Police Department is Vlasic Park, a place for family picnics and family reunions. But tonight it was used for something much different. With more on that, let's bring in News Channel 5's Christina Coleman.
A number of people gathered here tonight to show their support for law enforcement. They have candles, they have flags, they have signs, all to encourage peace. Organizers say they're holding this vigil to unite against violence against law enforcement. After the shooting in Dallas and today's brutal shooting of a Baldwin police officer, organizers say they felt compelled to show the community how they're against the violence. Baldwin resident Johnny Scott organized the vigil. The firearms and self-defense instructor has a lot of friends in law enforcement. He says he's been very worried about them over the past 24 hours. And he's standing here with me right now. Johnny, I talked to a number of officers here today. They say they are very grateful for this event. Is that why you held it?
Yeah, I think the idea is to just start a movement where we can show the law enforcement officers that there are people that support them. And the idea from here on is to just stand beside them, stand with them, and grow the movement from here.
All right. Thank you so much, Johnny. Now, he says that he is also going to be raising money to help the family of the Baldwin officer that was shot today. Reporting live in Baldwin, Christina Coleman, News Channel 5, on your side.
Now, this day began in a residential area of Baldwin. Here's a map that shows where the officer was shot. It happened in the 300 block of New Baldwin Road near Twigwood Drive. The suspect was caught a short time later off 141 on Burgundy Lane, north of Manchester. A handful of witnesses were on scene even before first responders. With that part of the story, let's bring in News Channel 5's Marianne Martinez.
Mike, we spoke to a woman who was just driving on New Baldwin Road with her young son in the back seat. She saw an officer down and pulled over to help.
This is going to haunt me. I mean, this is going to haunt me for the rest of my life.
It was a scene Nicole Regan will never forget. She was driving up New Baldwin Road when she saw an officer down.
I went to pull over to see if I could help because my initial thought was he was hit by a car.
As Nicole got closer, she saw the officer had been shot. A man had also pulled over to render aid before the ambulance arrived.
It's one thing to see it on the news, you know, and feel a bit of sadness and remorse. But when you're there and you see this happen in front of you and people are standing around and I'm holding and screaming and this other lady, you know, comes up and we're holding each other screaming.
As other witnesses started gathering, they all grieved together.
We're holding each other and just crying, God, why? God, why? You know, he's just an officer.
Nicole said she tried to shield her son from the scene, and now she is struggling with the fact she can't protect him from everything.
I didn't want to let him know that this is the world that he is living in.
Nicole said she credits the first passerbys who stopped to help the officer. They gave him aid and also called 911. Live in the newsroom, Marianne Martinez, News Channel 5 on your side.
People living in the neighborhood where the suspect was caught are telling a terrifying tale. Many told police they saw the suspect running in their neighborhood with a handgun, and one woman says he may have even tried to get into her house.
I was in my back bedroom and I heard the kitchen door open. And then the dog started barking. It was about 20 seconds later, I heard the door close. Then I look out the back door, and there's 50 police officers.
The entire incident lasted about 5 minutes. Crime scene tape stretched through several yards. Now the latest on the wounded officer who is still in ICU at Mercy Hospital in Creve Coeur, and that's where we find News Channel 5's Mike Rush.
Mike, I reached out to St. Louis County Police about an hour ago, and they confirmed to me that the officer's condition remains the same, critical but stable. As the sun set on this tragic day, members of the law enforcement community continued to come to Mercy Hospital, as they have all day long, to show their support for their wounded comrade. Investigators say the 32-year-old officer was shot at least 3 times and hit at least once during a traffic stop with the suspect. Antonio Taylor, according to authorities, fired on the officer as the officer turned his back to walk toward his patrol car during a traffic stop. Baldwin's police chief calls this a devastating time for his force emotionally.
We have an officer, a Baldwin police officer, in the hospital this morning or this afternoon fighting for his life. And as the leader of this organization, I care immensely about the men and women that work here. And again, this is a very, very, very sad day for us.
The chief says that he and his force appreciate the outpouring from the Baldwin community and the other communities around, and he says that his dedication and his force's dedication to the city of Baldwin remains as strong as ever. Reporting live from Creve Coeur, Mike Rush, News Channel 5, on your side.
It's believed to be a first in the U.S. A closer look at the robot bomb used to end the Dallas standoff. The events in Dallas and Baldwin are weighing heavily on the lives of local police officers, how they're coping, and the message they have for everyone. Plus, this week's violence is prompting local police departments to make changes, the new effort to keep officers safe. It has never been more stressful to be the wife of a police officer. News Channel 5's Art Holliday spent some time today with members of the St. Louis Police Officers' Wives Association, and they have a message from the wife, the wounded Baldwin police officer.
Our guests are Kelly and Barb, President and Vice President of the St. Louis Police Wives Association. And Kelly, you have a message from the wife of the Baldwin police officer who was wounded today. You met with her. What is the message that she's sending?
Her message for the public was to say thank you for all of the support. They have felt the love and the support from everybody. They're getting lots of messages and phone calls in Baldwin at the police station. She just asked that everybody continue to pray for them as a family.
You know from personal experience how difficult it can be because your husband who's a police officer,
Correct.
Was wounded in the line of action.
He was ambushed here in the city of St. Louis. Thankfully, his vest saved his life that day, but it is not fun being a police wife and getting that phone call. My phone call came at 5 a.m. in the morning. You go rushing to the hospital, your adrenaline is rushing, you don't really know what situation you're walking into. Thankfully, my situation ended well, but for so many police wives, just as we see in Dallas today, that phone call ends up being a tragic phone call.
Under normal circumstances, it must be incredibly stressful to be part of a police family. But these are extraordinary times that we're living in right now with extraordinary pressures. How do you take care of your family in situations like this when you're a police family?
It is really challenging. As you said, times are changing, a lot of different things going on. But as a police family, it's really about supporting not just within our own families, really taking advantage of the time that your husband has off and being together as a family, but also in supporting each other, which is a huge part of what we do and what our association does. We really take the time and effort to be there for one another.
How much stress is involved in that?
I think the biggest challenge is to not get complacent and not to think that every day, they're going to come home, and be prepared and have your things in order so that if you do have to get that unfortunate phone call, you know where your support is going to come from and you have a plan to make it through.
You can make a donation to the Police Wives Association by sending a check or cash to the address you see on your screen. Before we go, we want to bring you up to date on the story we've been following all day. A Baldwin police officer is in critical but stable condition tonight after getting shot during a routine traffic stop. The suspect, 31-year-old Antonio Taylor, is now in custody. He is facing several charges, including assault on a police officer, and will be arraigned on Monday. Police are still searching for a motive. They have dash cam video of the shooting, but are encouraging anyone with video of the incident to come forward. And there you have it. News Channel 5 at 10. The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon is next. Stay safe, and we'll see you tomorrow.